Psychologist Dawn Hughes has just finished testifying on direct examination, so let's get into what was said. Testifying as a blind expert to provide the jury with information on traumatic stress, DV, and S. Testified that it's very common for victims to stay in abusive relationships because they end up feeling trapped. She said SA is a type of private harm which can make it hard for victims to seek help. Testified that a victim's financial dependence and lack of resources make it more difficult to leave an abusive relationship. She said a trauma bond is when somebody is attached to their partner despite the abuse they suffer. And why it sometimes takes multiple attempts for victims to leave abusive relationships. And as well as developing coping mechanisms, she testified that victims also numb themselves with substances. And she said it's common for victims to wait months, even years, before disclosing abuse. Let's get into her testimony in more. The government calls Dr. Dawn Hughes. What is your profession? Clinical and forensic psychology. I treated people who were in World War II, which was such an honour. How many times have you testified in court? 60 or 65 in SDNY, ENDY, and the Northern District, also NJPA, CTVA. We offer Dr. Hughes as an expert. Defence, no objection. What do you anticipate covering? Why victims stay? Memory. Have you been retained by the government? Yes. What is your hourly rate? $600, $6,000 for the day in court. Why do victims stay? There are psychological bonds and the psychological consequences of the abuse. What are the levels of fear? It ranges from physical violence to butterflies. Violence doesn't have to happen all the time. What is psychological violence? Intimidation, throwing things, telling you what you can do and where you can go. Objection. Judge, hold on. I'm going to strike that last answer. What can be the role of SA? It puts a victim in significant psychological fear. Why does it prevent leaving? Shame, degradation. They don't want to think about it. What is emotional abuse? Putting down our partner, feeling like a piece of crap. What about financial dependence? The abuse controls housing and transportation, taking away her laptop. Objection, sustained. Are you familiar with love bombing? That honeymoon phase, the abuser showers her with gifts and affection to get her back. Does the attempt to leave happen over time? Yes, it takes multiple attempts. Which is the most common coping mechanism? Trying to work it out because of the trauma bond. You don't want to lose your partner. Personal coping mechanisms. How does placating or appeasing work? We're trying to avoid abuse. What is minimization? The victim says maybe they had a bad day at work, maybe they were intoxicated. It's a way to stay in the relationship, but it increases their risk. It's not a long-term strategy. It gets from one assaultive episode to next. What about the power relation? A person can have power as principal of a school. The victim asks who is going to believe